So sleep in heavenly peace. So ends the first stanza of Joseph Moore's famous poem that we know as Silent Night. But what is heavenly peace? To that mother of 3 young children at home, heavenly peace is probably when dad takes them out of the house, right? For the homeless of Eugene, heavenly peace is a night of being able to sleep someplace where it's safe and warm without fear of being roused in the middle of the night. For those soldiers in World War I, heavenly peace was a day without the killing. And yet, surely peace that is heavenly is more than just one day, than one silent night. The story of Silent Night, I think, is probably well known to many people. And according to the legend, the organ at the village church in Oberndorf, Austria, was broken. And so on Christmas Eve, the priest, Joseph Moore, asked the organist, Franz Gruber, to come up with a simple tune that could be played on the guitar. The reality actually is that Moore just simply wanted a very simple lullaby tune for his poem, accompanied by the guitar. And so it was on that very Christmas Eve, just hours after Franz Gruber composed the music, that the two of them sung Stille Nacht for the first time in this church in Oberndorf, Austria, 200 years ago. Does anyone know the name of this church? I mean, this is the stuff that you can't make up. It is St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas Catholic Church. Oh, it didn't appear. I'm pointing to the screen and you all have blank faces because the screen is blank. St. Nicholas Catholic Church in Oberndorf. And it's easy to picture a snow-covered village in Austria because, of course, in December, late December, you would expect snow. And so you can have that image of a silent night that surely was the inspiration for Joseph Moore's poem. The word is translated as peace in English, in German is Ruhe. And I was just checking with Matthias on this, and actually the phrase, very common in German, is Ruhe und Frieden. We would say peace and quiet. Frieden is usually what we translate as peace. Ruhe is the opposite of chaos. It's stillness. It's that absolute quiet. And that iconic vision then of a quiet, snow-covered village stands in such stark contrast to the reality of the world. And it is that contrast between the world as it is, that's filled with noise and chaos and violence, and the peaceful world, as imagined by Moore and Gruber, that is the point of the carol. The vision for what the world should be when the Prince of Peace is on that throne, and then contrasted with how the world really is, right? And I think of the contrast of Van Gogh's Starry Night with Picasso's Guernica, or maybe contrast between Raphael's Madonna with Munch's The Scream, right? Or maybe the Ducks in the Rose Bowl versus the Huskies. No! Right? So as we remember this week the life and legacy of President George H.W. Bush, I'm remembering when he was vice president at the height of the Cold War. And of course, Ronald Reagan was the president, and he was preparing for a summit with Mikhail Gorbachev. And a friend of mine, disciple pastor Richard Wing, made what I thought was a brilliant proposal for the basis of world peace and an end to violence. He suggested that after all the preparations for the summit, all the calculations that are done, you have so many missiles, we have so many, you've got so many ships, we got so many planes, you got so many bombs, we got so many, all of that, and negotiating, some disarmament treaty. Reverend Wing suggested the first thing these two leaders of the two most powerful nations of the world, the very first thing they should do would be to trade pictures of their grandchildren. Imagine that, right? Or imagine Israeli and Palestinian leaders trading pictures of their children and grandchildren. Or perhaps leaders of Saudi Arabia would have pictures of the children of Yemen on their desks. Or if President Trump would have pictures of those Honduran children on his desk. When we think about our children and our grandchildren, do we think about those children and grandchildren of other nations, and particularly those we call our enemies, and what kind of world we want for them? Is it not the same kind of world we want for our own children? You see, peace is not enough. Einstein may have gave us the theory that made nuclear weapons thinkable, but it was Edward Teller, the physicist, who made the hydrogen bomb possible. No one has yet created a weapon more powerful or more deadly than what Teller created. So listen to what he says about how to make peace. The problem, Dr. Teller says, that needs to be attacked is to diminish the causes of war. That can only be accomplished through constructive cooperation by overcoming psychological barriers and improving material well-being throughout the world. The long-term remedy for our problem is safety through mutual trust. And such trust will grow best from cooperation for joint projects and not prohibitory treaties. Mutual understanding and the slow creation of a cooperative family of nations is an enormously difficult task, yet it is the only hope for lasting peace and stability. Or Robert McNamara, the former Secretary of Defense and one of the chief architects of the Vietnam War, made this rather prophetic statement 40 years ago. He said, Our defense of security is out of date. A society can reach a point at which additional military expenditures erodes security rather than enhances it. Public expenditures for weapons research and development exceed the total money spent for research development for fuel, health, education, and food combined. Unless there is a different allocation of resources in the industrial nations from military development to human development in the poorest nations, we shall never have a peaceful world. Robert McNamara. 20 years prior to that, President Eisenhower gave his famous warning about the growing military-industrial complex as he left the White House, saying, every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. Peace is not enough. When more African American men go to prison than go to college, when 20,000 children in the state of Oregon have no place to study, no place to eat, no place to sleep at night, when impoverished and desperate would-be immigrants and refugees are tear-gassed at our borders, when climate change results in war-destructive hurricanes and forest fires that destroy entire communities from the Gulf Coast to the West Coast, peace is not enough. Peace is not enough, not only because we need more than peace to thrive as human beings and as healthy societies. Peace is not enough because God expects more of us. From Micah, we are reminded, what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? And from Jesus, we remember the Sermon on the Mount. You have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, you shall love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. There's a word for what God intends this world to be like, and that word is shalom. When Isaiah names this child to be, he calls him the Prince of Shalom. And we translate that as peace, the Prince of Peace. But you see, peace is not enough to define shalom, because shalom means so much more than peace. Shalom is wholeness, completeness. Shalom is who and what we are called to be as community of God's people, what Martin Luther King called the beloved community. Shalom is where all the children are fed, safe, and loved. And when we act to make shalom a reality, we act on behalf of God. When we obstruct shalom from becoming a reality, we oppose God. And shalom has three dimensions to it. The first is the unity of God's creation. Throughout the Bible, from the very first story of Adam and Eve, and then of Noah, we are reminded we are all of one family, right? We all came from that garden. We all came off of that boat. Paul reminds us that we are one in Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave or free, male and female, all are one in Christ Jesus. And Jesus says in John's gospel, I have other sheep not of this fold. I must bring them in also, for there is one flock, one shepherd. Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann concludes, all persons are children of a single family, members of a single tribe, heirs of a single hope, and bearers of a single destiny to care for all of God's creation. We like to say in our tradition as disciples of Christ, we are a movement for wholeness in a fragmented world. And we refer to Christian unity as our polar star that guides us. But Christian unity is not the goal of the church. Rather, Christian unity is the model that we are called to demonstrate for the world, the model of the unity that we are called to witness to for the whole world. And why we then at this table invite all to be guests of Christ, for all are welcome at God's table. The second dimension of shalom is social justice, which is central to the biblical vision of shalom. Again and again, God acts to bring out justice for all the people, to give good news to the poor, sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed. The story of the Exodus from slavery in Egypt, the return from exile in captivity in Babylonia, the ministry of Jesus to the sick, the hungry, the outcasts, and the rejected all give witness to this kind of justice. Justice is not simply maintaining public order, punishing the lawbreaker. No, this kind of justice is the creation of new relationships, personal and societal, which allow for the expansion of the common good, the fulfillment of every person's God-given potential. That's the point of justice. And again, Micah proclaims in chapter 3, hear you heads of Jacob and rulers of Israel, is it not for you to know justice? You who hate the good and love the evil, who tear skin off my people and their flesh from their bones. And from Isaiah 1, we read, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes, cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Social justice, you see, is where every person is treated as a child of God. And the third dimension of shalom is the end to war and violence. Isaiah's beautiful vision that's often cited during the Advent season of the peaceable kingdom gives such a wonderful vision of this justice, where the wolf dwells with the lamb, the leopard lies down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. That's shalom. Recall again from the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, not just the peacekeepers, but those who make peace where war and violence rages. And then in Revelation, we have that final vision of the city of peace when war and death itself is put to an end. Shalom is that time when swords are beat into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks, and nation shall not lift sword against nation, and neither shall they study war anymore. In God's shalom, these three dimensions then, the unity of creation, social justice, and peace, are intertwined in an inseparable braid. You can't have one without the other. And shalom, peace is not enough. And so we celebrate the coming of Christ not just as the Prince of Peace, but as the Prince of Shalom. Because in Christ we see that vision of God for the whole world, for all creation, where all are united as one people, where the hungry are fed and the sick are healed, where we don't just make peace with our enemies, we actually love them. And what's more, we are called not just to proclaim such a vision, we are called to live it and to seek such wholeness in our own lives, in this community, and to work for it in our world. Silent night is the vision we need in our world today, a vision of wholeness, of shalom, because peace is not enough. It is just the beginning of God's shalom for the whole world.